Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wolfpacker Show. My name's Ethan McDowell. I'm here with Noah Fleischman, and we are here to talk about some Wolfpack football and some Wolfpack basketball. It's an exciting time to be a Wolfpack fan. There's a lot going on, a lot to follow. And before we dive into everything, the best place to follow everything that's going on by far is the Wolfpacker.com. We're both writers for the Wolfpacker.com. And if you're looking for football analysis, recruiting scoops, basketball, takes from the scrimmage. We have observations on every single player that played in the scrimmages, men's and women's, up on our site right now. I know if you weren't there, you didn't get to watch it, but we were there. We have the observations posted on the site. So go check out the wolfpacker.com. And that's just, the tip of the iceberg there. There's tons of good information about football and both basketball teams on the site. Got some good wrestling content up on the site recently as well. If you're interested in hearing what's in store for the wrestling team this year, there's just a lot of good stuff going on at the wolfpacker.com. And right now, you can join for half off an annual subscription. Comes out to just under $5 a month. It's a great deal, and you'll get access to all this cool stuff and a awesome message board community as well. So encourage you all to go check that out. Again, 50% off an annual subscription. Doesn't get much better than that. And we will see you all there on our message board. Noah, would you like to talk about some Wolfpack sports? I think we have plenty to dive into today. What do you say we start out with our preview of the Stanford game, and we'll dive into some basketball?
Works for me. Let's get it.
All right. So NC State versus Stanford. The Pack is back at Carter Finley Stadium, standing 4-4 on the season after a much-needed bye week. That was a grueling 8-game stretch before the open date, Noah. So they needed this. They said it themselves. Like, this was a much-needed bye week, and they got it. They got through it, and now it's time to play the Cardinal. Stanford is 2-6 so far this season. The two schools have identical conference records at 1-4. Stanford hasn't won a game since, I believe, September 20th. So, and that was a win over Syracuse, a good win for them, but it's been downhill since then. Since beating Syracuse 26-24 in the Battle of the Block S's, they have lost to Clemson, Virginia Tech, Notre Dame, SMU, Wake Forest. Outside of Wake Forest, it's not, those aren't bad losses, but when you look at how they've lost, Noah, like that, the Wake Forest game was the only one where they scored more than 14 points. This is a struggling football team on both sides of the ball. I want to get your initial take on the Cardinal, man. What do you think about, NC State's second West Coast opponent in as many games?
Yeah, it's a lot different of an opponent than what they saw in Cal. Cal is a team that just had bad luck. They're a team that their record's not great, but they were playing competitive games in the ACC. Stanford, on the other hand, it's not that. They're rebuilding. We knew this kind of going into the year that they weren't going to be a great, football program this year, like wins and losses wise, and 5 straight losses does that to them. They did have a walk-off field goal at Syracuse. Good win. Thought that, they were 2-1 at the time of getting that win. Looked really good, getting their first ACC win. Haven't won in conference play since. They've been an up-and-down team. They've played 3 different quarterbacks this year. Ashton Daniels is their starter. He came into the year as a starter. He's back after, being hurt for a little bit. So we'll see what happens. But overall, this is an opponent that NC State can kick off its Final Four stretch in the right way in its Final Four games. It wants to win out, and this opportunity to not only get a win, but get a win in I wouldn't say, a dominant fashion, but in a fashion where they're not too worried, in the fourth quarter. This is the kind of game where they can get right a little bit. You don't want to say that coming out of bye week, but at the same time you do. I mean, that Cal, they had to surge their way back. This could be a game where they can get out pretty pain-free before they get set for the last 3. But overall, Stanford is a lot different opponent than what they saw when they went out west to Berkeley.
Yeah, and going up against Cal, I thought Cal was a good football team, to be honest. It was just, like you said, some tough luck in one-score games. And we saw how that went against NC State. Another, strong finish for the Pack, something they've been looking for, and then, another poor finish for Cal. This team, Stanford, doesn't start or finish particularly well in games. They do have a couple talented players, but you mentioned their quarterback, Ashton Daniels, and this is an example of an area where NC State should be able to exploit one of the Cardinals' weaknesses. They do not throw the ball well. They have the worst, I believe, passing offense in the ACC. So they're going to have to, you know, continue to not allow any big plays in the passing game against Stanford, because I think as long as they're not giving up anything, explosive, 30, 40 yards downfield, it's going to be really tough for this team to extend drives. Daniels, you mentioned he's been a little banged up this season. They've played 3 quarterbacks, and it sounds like they might continue to rotate quarterbacks. It doesn't sound like there's really any particular set decision on who's going to be under center for them, because when Daniels has been in the game, he hasn't been particularly great. He hasn't thrown for more than 214 yards against an FBS opponent this year, and has 8 interceptions against 6 touchdowns so far this fall. So he's struggled taking care of the ball, completes 62.2% of his passes, and averages only 5.7 yards per attempt. So they're not pushing the ball downfield at all. And the main thing to watch for, man, is that he's a dual threat quarterback, right? He's going to run, and if they'll get him involved in the design quarterback run game, and they'll let him scramble as well. So far, he has 352 rushing yards this season, 4.6 yards per carry. Of course, that is skewed by sacks as well, but he's still their leading rusher. They don't have a rushing attack really at all besides Ashton Daniels. So NC State's linebackers are going to have a lot of responsibility keeping him contained. If they keep him contained, Noah, I don't see the Stanford offense doing much of anything. But that's just the takeaway I got from going and looking at their offense. What stood out to you?
Yeah, I think that's it. The one thing about their offense that does stand out, which if they had a quarterback that could push the ball downfield, they could be really, really good team. When you look at their top wide receivers, Alec Iamaner, he's probably one of the best wide receivers in the ACC. 6'2", 210 from Canada. He's a sophomore. He'll be back. Maybe with Stanford next year. Maybe not. If he were to transfer, he'd be a hot name in the portal. This is a guy that's really, really good. This year he's got 42 receptions for 484 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's the leading receiver, but the numbers don't pop off the page because they're not pushing the ball. Last year, 62 receptions, 1,013 yards, 6 touchdowns, averaged 16.3 yards per reception. He's really, really good, really capable. Teams are also game planning for him a little bit better, just like we've seen with Kevin Concepcion after a breakout freshman year. They kind of figure you out a little bit. But, if they push the ball downfield, they have a good target. They just struggle getting the ball to him sometimes past, 5-10 yards out of the field.
Yeah, the fact that he's still putting up good numbers is super impressive just because of how bad Stanford's passing offense has been. He's really good. They need to slow down Elick as well, because that's going to be a challenging matchup. He lines up pretty much exclusively outside, so that'll be a matchup with Aiden White, and sounds like Brandon Cisse will be back Saturday. We could see that matchup as well. But Pack has 2 talented outside corners, and we'll see how that matchup goes. If they can contain him, again, stop any huge explosive plays, and contain the quarterback run game, NC State's defense has struggled this year, but they should be against this Stanford offense, in my opinion. This so far this season, Noah, NC State's giving up 31.1 points per game defensively. That is 16th in the ACC. There is one team worse than the Wolfpack defensively in terms of scoring, and that's Stanford. They give up 31.5 points per game. And part of that, I think, is the schedule. Stanford's played a tough schedule, just like, NC State as well. They've played some explosive offenses, ranked teams, and so far they haven't been able to stop much of anybody. They're giving up yards through the air, yards through the ground. Right now, they rank number 15 in the ACC in passing defense. So I put this in my scouting report over on the Wolfpacker.com. If you're going to let the offense do anything, you just got to let CJ cook in this game. I think the freshman quarterback has just gotten better and better. And the way the coaches and the way the players are talking about him just validates that in terms of just the perception of him in the Murphy Center. It's clear that as his confidence grows, everyone's confidence in CJ grows as well. So, this team can't defend the passing game. They actually do have the number 7 rushing defense in the ACC, only giving up 127 yards per game. So I think, if anything, though, you kind of just got to let CJ make plays and let him continue to get the ball to these talented playmakers, because he's shown, I think, over the past couple weeks that he can do that on a more consistent basis than he originally showed over his first couple starts.
For sure. And I think, when you look at this, the pass defense numbers from Stanford is what sticks out, because NC State hasn't found a way to run the ball consistently. So them being a good run defense team isn't the worst case scenario. But CJ Bailey has definitely grown a lot. He's the only true freshman quarterback in the country to have multiple 300-yard passing games this year. The other 7 have combined for 1. And that was Mississippi State's Michael Van Buren, who did against Georgia. So he did against a good defense. But, overall, CJ Bailey has really impressed everybody. He's taking strides each week. And, talking to his high school coaches, when he got the starting role, they were like, he's not going to make the same mistake twice. We haven't really seen that, which is good. It's good. He makes a mistake. He figures it out on the sideline. He comes back out and eliminates it. He's a 6-2 turnover touchdown to interception ratio in the last 2 games. He's really cut down those numbers, which I think is really impressive as well, just because of the fact turnovers are a problem for this team, but it's fumbles and it's not interceptions. And I think that's an easier thing to clean up. It's just holding on to the ball tighter rather than making decisions. Because CJ has made good decisions. He's aired the ball out. And at Cal, he really impressed by making some tight window throws. So I think we see them again go back in the air, let him cook, as the people would say these days. And we'll see. But overall, this is a guy that's, I think, playing more mature than a freshman. He talked about this week, he doesn't view himself as a freshman anymore. He thinks he's out of that title. He thinks of himself as a sophomore quarterback playing really, really good football. And the better he plays on the stretch, the better for NC State in the future when it comes to CJ Bailey leading this team. Because now that Grayson McCall announced his retirement last week, it's just CJ Bailey's team moving forward. And he knows that. And now that might give him a little bit more confidence to go out there and lead this team to victory.
Absolutely. And personally, that's what I'm most interested to see down the home stretch of this season. I want to see CJ continuing to make those positive strides. What's really impressed me about him is just his mentality, how he's approached this entire season. It's very clear that when he screws up, he is taking those mistakes really hard, but he's not letting it get him down. I don't know if I've talked to a college football player who just radiates positivity like CJ does. I imagine he's probably a really fun quarterback to play for, just because when we get to talk to him, he's just seems like just the most positive person you've ever met. Fun player to interview without a doubt, and he's been fun to watch over the past couple weeks, especially in that Cal game, where you're right, he was taking shots and throwing up 50-50 balls. We'll say that. But that's what this offense needs, because they have receivers who can win 50-50 balls. That's what we were looking for this entire season. And, do we think the offense is going to be perfect down the rest of the season here? No, absolutely not. The run game, still have major concerns about that. And, at the end of the day, still a freshman at quarterback, there's going to be mistakes. But if we're seeing what we saw, especially in the second half against Cal, and for much of the game versus Syracuse from CJ, then that's going to be pretty good. And even if regardless of the win-loss record by the end of the year, there will be a reason to be quite excited about the future with CJ under center, without a doubt. And I think he is talented enough to dice up this struggling Stanford defense. Speaking of the Stanford defense, before we move on, just wanted to mention a couple standout players for them. Tristan Sinclair, graduate linebacker. He leads the Cardinal with 63 total tackles this year. That's the 5th most in the ACC so far this year. He has missed 8 tackles this season. That's about 11% of his attempts so far this fall. And he's really good in run support, struggles a bit in coverage. He's allowed a reception on 88% of his targets, and that has led to 156 yards after the catch, which I think is a good measurement of, if you're a linebacker and you get put in space, and it's okay. I understand if you give up a reception, but he's allowing yards after the catch too, which is noteworthy to me. Also, one player that not on the field a ton, but NC State fans want to keep an eye on is David Bailey. He's a junior linebacker, former blue chip recruit, elite recruit. And he has an elite 92.1 pass rushing mark on Pro Football Focus so far, and leads the team with 4 sacks. He's a rotational guy as an edge rusher. He's not going to play a ton, but NC State needs to stay out of those third and long situations because when David Bailey is in the game, he can, wreck a play. So he's someone to keep an eye on out there as well. All right, Noah, shall we move into predictions, keep things going, and talk about how we think this game is actually going to go?
Let's do it.
All right. I want to hear yours first. How do you think NC State Stanford's going to go? Who are you picking to win this game, this homecoming game for the Wolfpack?
Yeah, I think the Wolfpack, continue their hot streak. This is a team that perennially comes out of the open week really, really hot and really, really good. They've figured themselves out, year after year, ever since 2020. I believe NC State is like, I saw it, I think Joe Giglio had it like 17-4 after the bye week combined. So I'll take the NC State Wolfpack in this game, 30-17. They find a way to get quick on offense. The defense cleans some things up, and Stanford's not the best of teams, but they can build confidence off a 2-score win like that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I have a very similar prediction. I had 31-17. So I think we're right aligned right there. I think that Stanford probably will have a little bit of success just with the quarterback run game like we've talked about. And, they've got a really talented receiver who's probably going to make some plays. So I think that'll get them a few scores, but I think NC State's offense is showing true promise right now. And I think they will be able to score points in this game and look solid doing so in the process. And I think it'll be another confidence-building win that just continues this little snowball of momentum that we saw build last year, and we'll see where they could go from here. But I do think NC State will leave Carter Finley Stadium Saturday afternoon with a win, and a comfortable one at that. Every week, Noah, we do like to predict who's going to lead the team in rushing, receiving, and tackles. So we're going to run through that really quick before we dive into our basketball discussion. But I briefly mentioned the running game a few minutes ago. It hasn't been good. It just hasn't been productive or reliable at any point this season. But if you had to pick someone to lead the team in rushing this week, who would you choose?
Hollywood Smothers. I really think they're going to get involved in the run game. He's been involved in the receiving game the past few weeks, but I think they're going to try to get him going there. He's their most explosive player in the backfield, period. And I think they try to work that into his ability to carry the ball, not just be a receiver.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's hard to pinpoint, where the issues exactly have been for the rushing attack because it's been different things at different times. Sometimes it's blocking issues, sometimes it's running back issues, right? So I don't think we're going to see everything just magically come together for the rushing attack. But when you're looking at a rushing offense where there's going to be very few opportunities, I think you want the running back in there that's going to make the most of those limited chances. And like you said, Hollywood is the most explosive member of that backfield. And when he gets a little opening, he can turn that into a 20-yard gain. So I agree. I think he'll lead the team in rushing and without leading the team in carries. I'll also add that. So I'm with you. I'll go with Hollywood. What about receiving? It's been a lot of variance this year, a lot of different guys leading the pack in receiving. Right now, as far as the season goes, Justin Jolie is the team leader. He's been awesome this year, especially as a down-the-field threat. But who are you going to pick this week?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the tight end, Justin Jolie. I think because we talk about TJ Bailey finding success pushing the ball downfield, he's a big body tight target that can hit down the field. And he can go up and get it. He's one of the best contested catch receivers in all of college football. I think he has another big game. I think it's only a couple, not too many catches because he's not really the first read on many plays. He's the second or third, but he goes up and gets the ball. I say he leads them in receptions, leads them in receiving yards with less than 6 receptions.
I like that pick. I'm going to go with Noah Rogers. I think he's going to bounce back from his fumble last week and make the most of a couple deep shots. And he's going to play a critical role in kind of breaking this game open with a couple big plays. We saw a glimpse of that in the Stanford game with the first touchdown of his Wolfpack career, and I think we could continue to see him take steps forward and continue to realize the sky-high potential the former 5-star receiver certainly has. All right, what about tackles? Let's round out our prediction by just picking who's going to lead the team in stops this week. So far, Sean Brown leads the team in tackles for the season. Noah, who are you going with?
We'll go with Donovan Kaufman. I think, with their mobile quarterback, he's going to be kind of closer in the box a little bit. Play on that. He's really good run defender, especially when plays get a little out of control. So give me the safety to be up in the box a little bit more than usual and making some plays.
I think that's a great pick for the exact reason you outlined. I think he's going to be in the box a lot. I think we'll see a lot of single high safety looks until Stanford shows that they can beat the pack downfield, because that's not something they've been able to do at all. For similar reason, I'm going to go with Sean Brown, just because I think he's going to have a lot of responsibilities in terms of containing the quarterback. Against mobile quarterbacks, last year we saw the will linebacker spot just take on a lot of responsibility when it came to a scrambling quarterback. That was Peyton Wilson's job quite frequently. And Sean Brown is the fastest, most athletic member of that room. So I think it is a logical to expect that him, who he plays the best in space when he's running around, he's got a head of steam and he's hitting folks. And I think he will lead the pack in tackles. And maybe quite a few of them will be on the quarterback, whether that's blitzing for a sack, a tackle for loss, or catching him when the quarterback starts scrambling. So I'll go with Sean Brown, but I think we both have pretty similar reasoning, and we kind of expect, the game to kind of unravel in similar ways this week. All right. That was our rapid fire football preview. And I think now we're going to talk about some Wolfpack basketball. The Pack has played a pair of exhibition games over the past couple of weeks. These do not count. They were not televised, but still fun to see the Wolfpack back on the court. And no, I want to talk about the men's team first, because you were there. I was not. I was following along online, and Lise McRae played them quite close. I want the full explanation from you here, man. How did NC State only beat Lise McRae 79-75?
Yeah, I'll preface it with this. NC State, a year ago played Mount Olive in an exhibition game, and it only won by 10. So I wouldn't really read too much into the actual score of the game. NC State, though, led by 21 early in the second half. Then its shooting just really went out the window. They did not shoot the ball well in the second half. At the beginning, they ended up closing fine, which was the difference. They did not make a three in the second half, 0 for 7. Finished the day 38% from the field, while Lise McRae was 43%. Just shots weren't falling for NC State's starters primarily. A lot of ugly shooting lines for the game. Jaden Taylor led the team with 12 points, but he did it on 2 of 11 shooting and had 7 of 10 free throws. So a lot of shooting woes. They don't really have a guy that can settle them down. There's no DJ Horn, no Terquavion Smith, no DJ Burns. They're still looking for that. We'll see what happens and if they can find that on this team. But overall, they found a way to win, and Kevin Keats after the game said he'd much rather a game like this than a 40-point blowout win, which it looked like they were on the way to in the first half. He'd rather this and get their attention before they open the season Monday night against USC Upstate.
And there's a ton of newcomers on this team, so it makes sense that it's taken a little bit to gel, right? But I wanted to get just your thoughts on the new guys you saw. Did anyone particularly stand out and impress you?
Yeah, they have 8 new players on the roster. They played all 11 scholarship players that were available. Dennis Parker Jr. and Mike James were inactive, both dealing with some injuries. Dennis Parker turned his ankle twice in practice, so they held him out precautionarily. Mike James had a knee scope. He's out for 2 to 4 weeks recovering from that. Overall, I was really impressed with Bryce Hurd. He's the youngest player on the team, reclassified up from class of 2025. He, in the first half, was 3 of 3, 7 points, 3 rebounds, as he finished with a similar total after Keats kind of made the rotation a lot smaller to win the game. But I was really impressed with him. You look at the other newcomers, Dontre Styles finished with 9 points, 9 rebounds. Not the best shooting night for him, but he was around the rim getting rebounds. We like to see that from a guy who's going to be playing the 4 spot primarily. Can play the 3 if they want to go big, which they did in the start of the second half, playing with him, Ben Middlebrooks, and Brandon Huntley Hatfield. And over that, everybody else kind of just is an up and down game. It wasn't like anybody really stole the show. So we'll see what happens on Monday night. But Michael O'Connell was out there doing his thing. He hadn't really practiced much. So this was his first time just getting cardio in and getting up and down the court. So they're ready for Monday night. We'll see how that goes. But I think that Keats has their attention. They've got a lot of film to work with now, and they can get some things cleaned up before they open the year and raise a couple banners.
So the next time we talk, they will have already tipped off their season. So I want to get the official season prediction from you, man. Where are they going to finish in the ACC? And is this an NCAA tournament team?
I think they have the possibility of making the NCAA tournament. I think they've got some work to do to get to that point. Picked eighth in the ACC, which I think is probably where they're going to finish. They last year, it was a similar kind of end to the year. I think that's just what it's going to be. This is a team that's going to have to work through some things. I don't think it's going to be the prettiest. We'll get a really good idea through this non-conference slate. Playing with teams like Texas and Kansas and Ole Miss, possibly BYU and Purdue. I mean, those are teams that are all going to be in the NCAA tournament. So we'll get a really good idea, in the first month and a half of the year. But right now, I think they're, a bubble team going into the year, which is where ESPN's Joe Lunardi has them, in the next 4 out. So we'll see what happens. But if they can win some games in the non-conference, I'll feel a lot better. But right now, I think that they're sitting on the wrong side of the bubble probably going into the year.
A team that will not be on the bubble in all likelihood is the women's team, the preseason number 9 team in the country. The Wolfpack scrimmaged Anderson, a D2 team from South Carolina, and won 91-54. It's kind of a sloppy game for them, but you can't, they did win by 37. But the score doesn't matter. The score doesn't matter in these exhibitions, man. Whether it's, like you said, if it's a close game or a blowout, it doesn't matter. It's just a chance for these players to get on the court and play in front of a crowd and, continue to grow chemistry before the games start to count. And this was a weird game for the Pack because they were missing a lot of players. Their only transfer addition of the year, Caitlin Weimer, had hip surgery or had some sort of surgery. She had a hip injury earlier in the fall. Either way, she's going to miss extended time. I don't expect her to play basketball for the Pack anytime soon. So they're missing her, and she was going to be a huge addition. She's the reigning Patriot League Player of the Year and a walking double-double, a great defensive player as well. Her not being available is a huge loss for this team. Can't overstate that. Other than her, Isaiah James, there was a bit of a commotion because at prime time for the Pack, she was on crutches. She was not on crutches. She did not play in this game, though. She has a knee sprain. And Wes Moore said she got an MRI and it came back with no ligament damage or anything. It's just a bone bruise. So she's probably has a little bit of time before she'll be back, but it's definitely not a long-term thing. I'd be a little surprised if we see her in the season opener, but I'm going to keep an eye on that South Carolina game next weekend to see maybe if that could be a potential return date for the star guard. And then Madison Hayes and Zoe Brooks both didn't play with minor ankle injuries, it sounded like. They're supposed to be back soon. So that's 3 potential starters, 4 if you count Caitlin. We don't know how she would have factored into the rotation, but that's 3, perhaps 4 starters that were out of this game. So we saw a lot of the freshmen, dude. We saw a lot of the newcomers that are going to make a huge impact. NC State brought in a talented freshman class led by Zam Jones, who's really good. The 5'7" point guard, I was just so impressed. She looked in total control of this game. She was not playing sped up. She was making great decisions for most of it. She did have 4 turnovers, so I shouldn't say great decisions. Good decisions for most of this game. And she was really, really good. In the first half, she scored 11 points and grabbed 5 rebounds. At 5'7", man, she really impressed me with her hustle. She was always seemed to be in the right place. She did not play like a freshman in this game. She is someone that I see contributing immediately to this team. So she was definitely the standout of the game. Sanaya Rivers had a great game, as you'd expect. She was definitely distributing the ball a bunch and playing defense, and wasn't whenever Anderson would get a couple baskets in a row, she'd kind of just take over and get a couple buckets. And there was no one on Anderson that could match her combination of size, skill, and athleticism. So she could have had 40 points in that game if she wanted, but she finished with 14. But anyways, notably, she took 3 threes in this game. Shot looked confident. She hit 1 of 3, and the one was it wasn't one where she was just so wide open that she had to take it, which was the situation most of the time last year. But she pulled up with the defender in her face and she knocked it down. And if she can do that at a decent clip this year, she will be a top 10 WNBA draft pick. She will be, yeah. I mean, if she, that's really the final piece missing in her game. If she unlocks that, she has All-American potential, AC Player of the Year potential. The sky is, the limit for her. So, yeah, I mean, with Caitlin out, they're going to have to play a lot of inexperienced post players, right? So I thought Lorena Awu was the most impressive out of the group. A freshman, 6'5" freshman, not ranked by ESPN, but had a good offer list. So which is really what you want to pay attention to there. And she went 5 of 7 from the field, grabbed 6 rebounds, and including 3 offensive boards. So I'd say between Zam Jones and Lorena Awu, that those are 2 freshmen that are going to contribute immediately. You can't take too much away from an exhibition, but I was encouraged by what I saw out of them for sure. All right. No, I don't think I have anything else for today's show. Do you? I think we're ready to wrap this up.
Yeah, I think we are. It is Halloween though, so
it is Halloween. Yeah. Happy Halloween. Enjoy trick-or-treating, anyone that's out there with their kids or going trick-or-treating themselves. But yeah, you got any costumes this year?
No, I was tempted to buy the Pop-Tart costume, but I didn't do it.
We should have covered the game on Saturday wearing the Pop-Tart Bowl costume. It's a shame. Missed opportunity. All right, folks. Well, thanks for tuning into this week's edition of the Wolfpacker Show. We'll be back on Sunday, like always, to recap what happened in NC State's game versus Stanford, and then it's crossover season, folks. And I think we're probably gonna have to record a few more podcasts than we usually do because there's going to be a lot of stuff to keep track of. So stay tuned to your the Wolfpacker YouTube channel feeds, and also check us out on the wolfpacker.com as well. Again, 50% off an annual subscription. Go check it out, and we will see you very soon. Thanks for tuning in, folks.